He thought she was just another intern, quiet, polite, forgettable. When he poured that scalding cup of coffee down her blouse, laughing it off as an accident, no one dared to speak. The office froze as the smell of burnt coffee filled the air, her trembling hands desperately trying to wipe away the pain and humiliation. He smirked, proud of his cruelty, thinking no one would challenge him. But he didn't know who she really was, or what power she carried behind that calm silence. Because sometimes the people you look down on are the ones who will stand above you. And when they rise, it's not mercy they bring, it's justice. Watch until the end, because what happened next silenced the entire office. Wait a second. Tell us where you're watching from in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more powerful stories like this. Alina Parker had just landed her dream internship at Stratton & Blake, a high-end marketing agency in the heart of New York City. For a young black woman from a small town in North Carolina, this was the opportunity she had worked for her whole life. She'd spent nights studying, skipped weekends out with friends, and poured her heart into her portfolio. Her mother's words echoed every morning. "Remember, baby, you belong in every room you walk into." On her first day, Elena wore a simple navy suit and a nervous smile. She noticed how people barely looked at her. The men greeted each other with firm handshakes. The women chatted in circles. But Elena stood alone. Still, she believed in kindness and hard work. Then there was Ethan Carter, tall, arrogant, and entitled. He loved being the loudest voice in every meeting, the one people laughed at, not with. To him, Elena was invisible. Another intern to order around, but she was determined not to let the bias break her. She took every task seriously, arriving early, leaving late, proving her worth one project at a time. She didn't realize that her quiet excellence was already threatening someone who couldn't handle being outshone. It began with the small things. Ethan interrupts her mid-sentence, joking about her tone when she spoke confidently, rolling his eyes whenever she shared ideas. When she created a brilliant ad mock-up, he presented it as his own in the next meeting. Elena smiled through the sting. She couldn't afford to lose control. Then came the breaking point. One Monday morning, the office buzzed with stress. The team was preparing for an important presentation for a luxury brand client, Ethan's project. Elena had stayed late the previous night, polishing the slides and refining the visuals. When she arrived early with coffee for the team, she hoped to start the day on a positive note. Ethan glanced at her with a smirk. "Finally doing something useful, Parker?" he roared, drawing snickers from a few co-workers. Elena's cheeks burned, but she stayed composed. As she handed out the cups, Ethan stretched exaggeratedly and with a deliberate flick of his wrist, spilled his coffee straight onto her white blouse. Hot liquid splashed across her chest. She gasped, the pain sharp and immediate. The room fell silent as the smell of coffee mixed with shock. "Oh, sorry," Ethan sneered, his grin cruel. "Guess you should be more careful next time." The laughter that followed was faint, uncomfortable. But it was enough to slice through Elena's heart. She excused herself quietly, walked to the restroom, and locked the door. There she stared into the mirror, tears streaming silently. Her blouse was ruined, her skin red and stinging. But the pain wasn't from the burn, it was from the humiliation. For years, she had learned to stay silent, to prove herself through excellence. But in that moment, she realized silence was no longer strength. It was a surrender. She straightened her back, wiped her tears, and whispered to herself, "Not today." What Ethan didn't know was that the regional director, Valerie King, had seen the entire scene unfold from her glass-walled office. Valerie wasn't just visiting. She was Elena's mentor, the woman who had personally recommended her for this internship. and she was furious. That afternoon, the air in the conference room was heavy. The big client presentation was moments away. Ethan strutted in confidently, flipping through Elena's work as if it were his own masterpiece. As the presentation began, Valerie King entered the room with 2 HR managers. The laughter died instantly. "Ethan Carter," she said, her tone cutting through the silence like glass. "We need to have a word." Ethan turned, confused. Can this wait? We're in the middle of—" "No," Valerie said sharply. "You're done here." He blinked, his confident smirk fading. "Excuse me?" Valerie's eyes were cold steel. "You humiliated a colleague in front of the staff. You poured coffee on an intern. You disrespected this company's values." "And humanity," Ethan stammered. "It was an accident. A joke." Her voice rose slightly. "You think assault is a joke? You think degradation is humor?" He looked around, desperate for support, but every face turned away. Valerie stepped aside. "Miss Parker, please join me after this meeting. We have something to discuss." And just like that, security escorted Ethan Carter out of Stratton and Blake. The same man who thought he owned the room now couldn't even look anyone in the eye. Justice, at last, had entered the room, and she was wearing Elena's badge. The next morning, whispers filled every corner of the office. No one talked about Ethan's jokes anymore. They spoke of Elena, about her grace, her strength, and how she walked back in the next day as if nothing could touch her. Valerie met her later that afternoon. "You handled yourself with dignity," she said, her voice softer now. "You didn't need revenge. You just needed to be seen, and now you will be." Within a week, Elena was promoted from intern to junior associate. The firm introduced mandatory diversity and respect training, crediting her courage for the change. Ethan's name was never spoken again. Elena didn't celebrate publicly. She didn't need to. Her victory was quiet, the kind that echoes longer than applause. As she settled into her new office, she paused by the same coffee station where her humiliation had begun. She poured a cup, calm, steady, unshaken. She smiled. "Not bitter," she whispered. "Just stronger." Outside the window, New York City gleamed, fast, fierce, unapologetic, much like her. Because in a world that still tries to silence women like her, Elena had proven that power doesn't always roar. Sometimes it simply stands tall and refuses to fall. She didn't just survive the cruelty, she rewrote the story. And somewhere deep inside, she knew this was only the beginning. Where are you watching from? Please tell us your country and city below. Take care.